The hardest thing for an average person to do is...
For those listening, I have no idea. Like, this is a question that I have sort of like an answer to in my brain. I have no idea where Jason's going.
All right.
Well, let's get this party started.
Dude, 100%. How many owls would you need to see? How many owls would you need to see before you thought something was wrong?
For me, it would have to be more than 7.
More than 7?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah. Like, because I mean, I feel like if I saw, it's kind of one of those, like, as you keep going up, you get to a threshold where you're like, okay, if I saw 2, that would be really unique. I wouldn't think like something's going on in the world of owls.
Sure.
If I saw 3, I would be like, wow, that's crazy. If I saw 4, I'd be like, you won't fucking believe it. I saw 4 owls today. If I saw 5, I would start a little inkling of why did I just see a 5th owl today? Right? Mm-hmm. 6 would be kind of like 5. And for me, that threshold would be like 7 owls. Like, but even then, I don't think that's enough to think there's something going on, like, in the world. Like, Harry Potter hasn't come to the door, right? Like, so, like, I think as I continue to discuss it and think about it, like, it would have to be even more than that. Like, because 7 would be so crazy, but I wouldn't think there's something going on in the world where, like, I saw 7 owls. I would just think it was a crazy day.
Well, yeah, okay. So it's kind of interesting you say that, because I went through the same thing, because I actually was talking to my nephew, Braden. He's 12 years old. I was talking to him about this last night. And, you know, he laughs, but then as you experienced as well, like, you know, when somebody first hears that, they're like, okay, why are we talking? And then, like, you see this thing happen, and they're like, now they're thinking about it. And he was like, you know, actually, now that you mention it, you know, I mean, I think, like, I don't even ever see owls. Like, I'm not even sure they are where I'm at. And then he looks them up. He's like, oh, yeah, North Carolina, I get some horned owls. So he's like, yeah, I mean, if I thought 1, I think it'd be kind of weird, whatever. And he gives his answer. And so for me, what I started thinking through is, like, there's levels to this, right? Because there's like, if the question was, how many owls would it take for me to think that something was going on with owls? I would probably start asking questions around 3 owls. And at that point, like, 3 owl Jason is like, okay, there's probably some, like, big score around here. There's, like, some humongous deer or whatever it is that I don't even know if they eat animals, but, like, something has gone weird in the forest, and now there are 3 of them. Because, like, population-wise, I couldn't even tell you, dude, how many owls, like, roughly live within 100 miles of where I'm at. Like, the answer could be 1, or it could be 10,000. I don't know which of those is more correct.
Well, and they're nocturnal, and they're really, really quiet, other than the occasional who.
Well, yeah, they ask a lot of questions, but it's always the same question. And it's like, you guys haven't figured it out yet? Like, that's the one thing about owls. But, so I think at 3, and it's funny because, like, to your point, I feel like when I first thought about it, my number was very low. It was like, dude, 3 owls, we are at an extinction level event. So I think the first level of concern for me, like, at 3, I'm starting to go like, like, 1 is like, oh, goddamn, there's an owl. 2 is like, hell yeah, another owl. 3 is like, huh. That's a 3rd owl. And we're assuming that these aren't baby owls, right? Because if you see a bunch in the nest, that doesn't count.
Sure.
So now I'm like, okay, if I see 3 grown owls, now I'm no longer thinking like there's just a family of 2. And I guess even at that point you could go, okay, maybe it's like a male and a female, and there's some like territory beef going on between like the 2 dude owls. Mm-hmm. And then when you start creeping up, 4, again, is no different than 3 to me. 5 is now I'm like, okay, something is very strange here, but it's kind of more like it could be like a weather pattern, or, you know, I live out in California, so it could have been like tremor somewhere I didn't even feel, and now owls are flying away from it. Once you start getting to 7 7 owls, like if now we're talking levels to it. So like 5 owls is like something's wrong with owls. If I see more than 7, I start thinking that we're at like an extinction level event to me. Like 7 is where I start going like, okay, this has been fun. And if I saw more than, now it's exponential. So every additional owl, like my bells are like louder and louder. And if I got to 10, dude,
double digits is the threshold where something is going on.
If I get to double digits, literally the very first thing I do is I call my mom and I keep calling her until she picks up. And I'm like, hey.
How many owls have you seen today, Mom?
Yeah. It wouldn't even, honestly, I don't even, well, maybe, but like, I don't even know it would get that far. Like, I would just be like, Mom, I can't explain why, but like, I just feel like something's up. I just wanted to check in with you. I love you. And then I would immediately book a ticket to my brother's house because he's the most like well-provisioned person that I know from like a firearms, and also he like cans his own vegetables. Like, I feel like we could Alamo it up a little bit if we need to at my brother's place, way better than I could at my apartment in Northern California. 10 owls to me is like it's something, well, holy shit.
Does your answer change if they're all different species versus the same species of owl?
Oh, for sure.
So if you just see right, like the number could drop. If I see 5 or 6 different owls, like different species of owl, like the Harry Potter is alive and well. Right?
Dude, at that point, like if you're talking like I can look at them and go, wow, that's a different species of owl. I mean, at that point, 3, I'm pretty goddamn concerned because like that just doesn't like, I don't even know how far you need to go to get 3 different species of owls. And again, it totally cuts my number probably, for sake of discussion, probably about in half. Mm-hmm. So like half the number of the same type of owl that I would need to see. Like now we're talking, if I see 5 different types of owls, like I'm pretty sure like something really nasty is going on. And like they know about some volcano that I don't, because they're owls. They're smart as shit. So they're like, yo, dude, it's like Fiji, but I mean, we're talking like there might be a monster coming out the goddamn ground at this point.
For me, it's double digits now that I think about it. It would have to be, I could almost justify, okay, there's just the owls are out and about because of whatever happened in the weather system. But like, the minute I got to 10, I would start looking for my magic wand and a couple suitcases, I think.
Okay, and so one last question. Does you now thinking about it, well, obviously thinking about it changes your answer, but there's that whole, like, you see things more now when you're looking for them. So does that change your answer at all? Like, now that you've been thinking about this, does that change your answer?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, unfortunately, I've given it quite a bit of thought after the conversation with my family. So
Such a fascinating topic.
Kind of been driving down the street, just checking out if I happen to see an owl. Right?
Like,
haven't seen one yet.
Okay.
So I might go for like a little nature walk in the forest and see if I can take a pair of binocs and maybe spot some.
Let's get the binos going.
I want to try and find as many owls in a day as I can on like a Sunday or something, and just see like what is a number that is super extreme.
To be fair, there was also, when I was a kid, we went to Hawk Mountain out in Pennsylvania. So it was like this wildlife, but in particular a bird sanctuary. So like also the answer kind of changes. Like we're not talking babies, we're not talking zoo, and we're not talking Hawk Mountain specifically. But anywhere else I've ever been, double digits is like we're in such deep shit.
There's a problem,
especially if they're kind of like spread out too, because like there's that whole component of like how far apart are these owls? Because if they're like, I don't know if it's better if they're closer or farther, but I would almost feel like farther away would be worse. Yep. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, it's definitely worth thinking about, folks.
Well, yeah, and also,
how many owls would it take?
Dude, how many owls? And I would love to hear in the comments how many owls it would take. The last piece of this, and it's kind of a joke, but kind of not, because I do feel like owls are one of those animals that, like, I understand that they fly solo most of the time, but I could also see us like not really understanding owls because they're so stealthy. Like, there could just be like a meeting of the owls every once in a while. Like, I do think, like, if you're stumbling through the forest and all of a sudden, like, you just so happen to go to that one grassy knoll where, like, the meeting's taking place, and they're like, they talk amongst themselves, and they're like, yeah, there's a human coming, because, like, they know, because they have guards, obviously. And they're like, yeah, dude, we saw him, like, 50 miles out, and honestly, he seems like a nice enough dude. Because they're like dogs, you know? Like, they kind of know when you're a good dude or not. And they're like, look, dude, he's probably just, he's fine. So we're just going to chill here. We're going to keep our meeting going. And, yeah. Something to think about.
The one added dimension to owls is you very rarely see them because they are so secretive, nocturnal, they're super quiet. So like that does add a dimension to if you start seeing a bunch of them, there's something weird about birds. There's something going on.
Well, for sure. And not only that, because like now you got me thinking about, because like owls are stealthy, they don't really want to be seen. But like now, if their guard is down about being seen, it means they're worried about something way worse. And if I'm being totally honest, I'm going to trust an owl's opinion on whether or not shit's hitting the fan over my own. Because I just feel like they just, like they see so much more. Yeah. Like they know it in their little birdie hollow bones. Anyway.
100%.
Well, dude, yeah, I'm very glad that conversation happened between you and your family. And that's what I love about these questions is like, and again, they don't even need to be original questions, but what I find is like, we do a lot of would you rathers in our friend group. And depending on the group that you have a much more robust or not that great of a conversation. So like, you know, things get recycled, but yeah, man, the all conversation is great. All right, what you got, baby? What you got?
Okay, so the first would you rather is actually credit to my better half, who is invested in the Thought Safari.
Sure.
And she proposed, would you rather be forced to smell everything that you hear or smell everything that you see?
Oh, smell everything that I hear or smell everything that I see? I mean, my, you know what I mean? Like it's my knee-jerk reaction is I would so much rather smell everything that wow, what was my knee-jerk? Because my knee-jerk changed so quickly. Like at first I was like, that's easy. I would rather smell everything that I see because like that's kind of cool. And like now I'm like dialed into it. And if I could smell it, that's kind of almost like a superpower. And then not only that, but there are some things that like I kind of just want to know what it smells like. And like you could just be at the grocery store and be like, man, those oranges look good. Like, let me just, yep. Like that feels so, actually, now that I think about it, because the smelling everything you hear, like that. So you're saying like you're smelling whatever's emitting the sound, I guess, is what you're saying?
Yeah. Yeah. So there's almost the way to think about it is there's a scent associated with either everything you see or everything you hear. So,
oh God.
So my take on it is very similar to yours, where seeing things can be somewhat controlled, right?
Yeah.
So like I can choose to look at things, but like hearing, sometimes you just hear sounds, right? So think about like going about your day, all the different sounds you hear. And then if there was a scent associated with all of those sounds, you don't choose to necessarily hear some things. You just hear noises. And every noise there would be a scent associated with versus seeing. But then like you do glance at a lot of things in this world.
You do, yeah. You do. Well, yeah, and it's also too like I guess it would depend on whether or not this is something that only pertained to me or pertain to other people as well, right? Because my answer might change if it's only me versus other people. Because if it's just me, then I'm kind of the weird one because then there's someone in the office or someone on the subway that just smells totally tremendous. Because like a subway might be a great example, right? Because there are some people that like you can actually smell them, but I could take my mind off that by just focusing on someone that smells great. But now you're staring at them. Consequently, or subsequently, like if you're not having a great day from you forget your deodorant or something and someone all of a sudden looks at you and notices it, now you're sitting in the office and there's no way to hide it because every time someone looks at you, now they know. And then you're sitting there and then everyone like over their cubicle is just kind of like giving you the what for. So I feel like it would be cool to have if you're the only one who has it, but if everyone else has it too. But then that almost makes it okay because then it's like we're all doing it and then we all know who smells. The smelling everything you hear though is just concerning. Like I don't like that at all. Like
especially
that just
if the scent is tied to the specific smell, right? So like you use the example of an orange. So like if I look at an orange, I would smell the smell of an orange, right? Or I look at a person, same thing. But like hearing, like you hear a lot of sounds. I hear cars go by on the road and they slam on their brakes. Does that mean I'm smelling the smell of like burned rubber or brake pads? Like, well, that's not that sweet.
Yeah. Well, and it's also like if you mix a bunch of colors together, you just get black. So the question would be, like right now, I'm looking at my computer, I'm looking at you, but in my periphery, I see my camera, I see a ring light, I see cleaning materials, I see my Zins, like I can see all these things. So if I'm getting the scent of all of those things, you almost have to imagine that now it just all blends to some like...
In this scenario, you would only smell what you see, which is ultimately what's in front of you. So
you're saying like what you're staring at.
Well, not necessarily what you're staring at, but like all of the things that you mentioned. So like if you didn't like the smell that you were smelling, you could simply remove yourself from that particular situation or that room and you would no longer have that scent. Whereas sounds, like, you know, and then you can get into like, well, what would a fire alarm smell like? Maybe it's not a pleasant smell and I can't turn it off and I can't really run away from it, right?
Yeah. I mean, but like I would imagine like you're at a restaurant, like that would be a superpower. And also if this happened and it wasn't just me that this happened to, my first move would be building the gnarliest garden I possibly could and charge people to go into it. And then use that to like, you know, donate to charity or whatever, because I'm a nice guy.
Sure.
But like, I feel like the whole world, like that's an interesting one. I like that one.
I thought it was really good.
Dude, do you want to, so I have some of these too. Do you want to alternate or do you want to just run through all of yours?
I'll run through mine and then you can hit me with yours and then we'll go into the others.
Let's hit it.
I can't really take credit for this because I did see a version of it. So whoever came up with it.
Yeah.
Would you rather get to play Augusta National one time or get free golf at your local muni for the rest of your life?
Oh, wow. My initial question was going to be, do I get to pick my foursome? Because I do think that would...
Sure.
Well, I mean, you know, they're the hallowed ground, so it'd be great no matter what. But if you get to pick your ideal foursome... you know what? What are we even talking about? If you get to curate your foursome, 100% you play Augusta with that foursome. 100%. And it's like... And like whether or not you had the course to yourself, but especially if you had the course to yourself, like it's literally just like you won some super exclusive, wonderful. You play it right after the Masters with the Sunday pins, like, oh, buddy, like yeah, yes, you do that.
You're going to Augusta.
You go straight there. Do not pass go. Do not collect to it. Yeah, I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I would have to do the same. I was very torn because I love me some muni golf.
Yeah, but
and like free golf at the local muni, like that would just be legendary. But you just I wouldn't be able to pass up a trip to Augusta. There's no way.
You can't. And even if even if you were to say like it might change if you were like every muni course ever was just free for you all the time, but even then, dude, even then, I still just don't think I would do that. Because, like, you can make the argument, well, like, what if you move and you have free muni at some place you no longer live? Like, not that sweet. But, dude, yeah, you play the hallowed grounds, bud. That's what you do. Easy. Next.
Yep. Okay, so I have a next question, but I'm going to feed off this one. You get to build your perfect foursome, dead or alive. Who are you playing Augusta with?
Dead or alive, I'm a cowboy. I'm still right. Dead or alive, foursome to play Augusta?
You're playing Augusta. 3 other people, dead or alive.
Okay, clarifying question. Could I pick a prior version of someone? Could I pick like 98 Tiger, for instance?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right. All right.
So it could be Tiger in his heyday. It could be Jack in his heyday. It could be Jesus. It could be anyone.
Oh my God, dude. Well, first of all, like, oh, if I could build my perfect foursome, dead or alive, what a great question. Okay. Present company excluded for obvious reasons, but like you undeniably would be part of my foursome. I 100%. Oh, God, you only get 4 though.
3. You're the 4th.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, you only get 3. You know, you want to fill it with golf people to the extent that you can and just see what the fuck happens, right? So for me personally, I'm going to go some version of Tiger, but I can't tell what I would want to pick because some part of me wants to go young bucket hat dickhead Tiger. Some part of me wants to go in his prime Tiger. And then some part of me wants to go like older Tiger who has more stories to tell about Augusta.
And is a little looser and kind of more fun to be around these days.
I go, okay, it's Tiger Woods the year he won the Masters for the last time.
Okay.
100%. You have to have Tiger in there. You're just picking your version of Tiger for me. I also go John Daly. And I can't tell what John Daly I want, but I probably go like a younger, just vibrant.
Bleach blonde winning the Open Championship.
Yeah, you got it, right? So I go those 2, and then I round it out with, gosh, I mean, you would like to think that you're just picking now your next favorite person, because like I also don't want to just get completely dicked down by everyone at this trip to Augusta. So like you know what I mean? Like you'd almost want someone
so
that's
now you're
like
gonna pick the token hack to join the group.
I guess. You know what? Okay, this is I can't get away from this one. I just can't. So I got a good buddy, Aaron, who absolutely loves the game of golf. And as much as like I could imagine like hanging out and getting smashed with like a Jimi Hendrix or a young Willie Nelson, he would deserve it the most of all the people that I know that aren't presently here. And I would say, honestly, my buddy Aaron, because I just love playing golf with him. Like he's my best golf buddy and he would relish the opportunity. And especially in that I mean, yeah, dude, 100%. That would be my foursome.
Love it.
Who do you go with?
Beautiful. Oh, that's a tough one. I'm torn, right? One is I kind of have 2 answers, which is kind of annoying, but I'm going to give them anyway. So one would be 1A, and it would be my dad, Ben Hogan in his prime, and Jack Nicklaus in his prime.
Oh, wow.
My dad kind of grew up teaching me golf. He was a big Hogan guy, and so that Hogan plug would probably be more for him than it would be for me.
Sure.
And just to see, I've always been fascinated with some of the older golfers because of how good I think they really were. If you think about equipment back in the day, some of the scores, some of the shots they hit, like I want to see just how good Ben Hogan was at hitting a golf ball in person around a place like Augusta.
A quick question. Yep. Would they be playing their native sticks and you would be playing modern technology?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, like you want to see them in their prime. Like I want to see them in their prime, like smacking whatever clubs they were playing, just puring balls.
Yeah, and then
with old sticks.
Yeah, with old sticks, and then all
probably
of a sudden
hitting it better than me, and I'm using all the new technology.
Yeah, and then you give them your driver, like at the driving range, you're sitting there and like you're sitting there with Benny chat, like yeah. Anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
The next one would be
what a good foursome.
The next one would be 1B would be like we're having a time and there is action everywhere.
Okay.
The gravy is flowing.
Michael Jordan.
and it is game on. So it's for sure MJ. It's Tiger in his prime. And then I'm tempted to throw in like either a John Daly where we could get a little loose, or like almost the maybe like another celebrity. So like I'm a big Aaron Rodgers guy, right? And I think that could be epically fun. And then you kind of have like a couple different levels. Not everyone's pro golfers, right? I wouldn't hate a match where you threw like Phil in his prime.
Oh,
So it was like me, Phil, Tiger, and MJ. Like, what a dynamic that would be.
oh my God.
Just to hear the banter between Phil and Tiger. Although I think I like the older Phil a little better, but
For sure.
Phil's kind of a douche anyway. So
Yeah, dude. But yeah, like
but that
time.
would be my 1A, 1B. 1B would be we're going out to have a time and we're throwing down the action. 1A would be we are playing pure golf, 1 through 18. My dad, Hogan, and Nicholas for sure.
Yeah, man. I mean, and the action one's kind of interesting because I didn't know who you were going to go with for the 4. I was debating between Phil Mickelson and like Kuchar, because apparently he just loves to gamble and like he really shows out when it's gambling time. But yeah, dude, I mean, like if I had an alternate, since you got me going on alternates, like I do feel like it would be really cool to play with. And again, like as weird as it feels to say this, like I'd play with a bunch of kids, but like I would love to play with like a young Tiger, like an up and coming Tiger. I would love to play with an up and coming Rory, and I would love to play with an up and coming like JT, or like Kepka's never been my guy, but like I don't know, Spieth, but like and also like a Seve or something. There's just it could go so many ways.
Seve.
I thought about Seve in mine. I thought about him in mine, and I was like,
I would love to play with Seve.
right, like
Oh my gosh, Seve's one of my favorites of all time.
and it's almost like it's almost like he's one of those like ought to be excluded, because it's like he obviously would make sense like no matter who you like, he would just like you know what I mean?
Answer.
Could you imagine that? Playing with like, dude, I would play
honestly,
anywhere with
honestly,
him.
I hate to do it, but I would probably boot Hogan from the 1A
Yeah.
and go Seve and Jack.
You know what I mean? Like, dude, playing with Seve, could you
Just an artiste.
just like I mean, buddy, like how could you have a better day? Like, I know you love your family. I know you and Em are tight. I know you and I are homies. You just can't have a better day than that.
No.
You can't.
That would be exceptional. So you're playing Augusta and you're doing it with those folks. Okay, last question for me.
Okay.
Would you rather hit moving forward for the rest of your life? Every single drive that you hit is 300 yards down the middle, or you make every single putt inside of 15 feet.
Every putt inside 15 feet, not even close. And here's why. I am ass at putting. And buddy, like I got length for days. Like dude, and I know that like being in the middle of the fit, but like there is just something about like, dude, like the moxie you would have when you looked at any putt and you were just like, get fucked. Like you'd be hitting them like backwards. Like, yeah, dude, because putting, if I could putt better, like if I could putt that well, like now your miss is anything inside. Now you don't have to even like, not that you're not trying, but I mean, dude, at that point you're just shooting center or green and it could trickle, and bud, you're making nothing.
You're never 3-putting.
Never. Nothing feels better than making every putt within a certain distance. Like when you're locked in with putter, dude, like locked in with driver, great. Locked in with wedges, great. Striping your irons, beautiful. When you are rolling the rock Like nobody has ever like when
Amen, brother.
yeah, not even close. But
Love it.
you,
I mean, I'm the same. Roll the rock all day.
yeah, I mean, like the driver would have to be. I couldn't even tell you how far the driving distance would have to be for me to change my answer, and I don't even think there's a number because 300 is perfectly fine. Yeah, you'd have to move the putting radius down to like everything 6 feet and in or something for me to take
Would
the
your
driver
answer
one.
change if it was 10 feet?
No.
10 feet and in, you're in.
It would change if you got down to like, if you were to like limit it to like 6, 7. But dude, there are so many 10-foot putts I have that there are so many 9-footers I have that if I just knew that there was a good chance, I mean, 100%. Okay, so
I love it.
So I have a golf one coming back your way.
Okay.
And it's one of those, like, I think I already know your answer, and it's going to be a nothing burger question. Maybe you'll surprise me. You could either play the game as is and putt as is, or you had special contacts that gave you the line for every putt you had to hit at whatever pace you wanted. And you're a honey dripper guy. You could perfectly read every putt, but it was mechanically read every putt. Not just your vision changed. You had augmentation that would help you. Would you take that or play it as is?
Every putt you hit, you would hit on the line that is the perfect line?
No, but you would know what the perfect line is. Whether you execute it or not is up to you.
Okay.
But you were given the line.
I would play the game as it is.
I knew you were going to say that. I knew you were. And honestly, like, I would too, just because like I would like it for like a round or two, just to be like, nobody, the line's actually here. Or if I would
take it for a year and probably qualify for a bunch of PGA Tour events.
Yeah, or I would just become a caddy at that. Well, I mean, I guess caddies get good enough at reading, but like that'd be good if you were a caddy. But yeah, 100%.
I would play the game as it is.
So I had another golf one for you, and I don't know, again, if it's as good as the golf one that you had. All right. You hit one stone cold shank every round, and it could happen at any point in time. Or your make percentage from 10 plus feet gets cut in half, which it's already, not a super high percentage, but gets cut in half.
No, I would take the shank. Which is brutal because, like, if it hasn't happened yet, you just know it's coming, and I think that would mess up other shots. Like, sure. I think at some point you would just accept, like, I'm gonna shank it, so just try and just hope it's not this one. But like cutting make percentage in half from 10 feet, like you'd never make a putt.
10 feet plus, you wouldn't.
10 feet. No, I mean that make percentage from 10 feet plus is already sub 50%. So for the best putters in the world.
What distance would it have to be for you to take? Yeah, I'll take that putting decrement. Is it like 20 feet because you're already not making anything over 20, or you're still like?
It would probably be. I don't know, man. 30 feet, maybe. Like, yeah, 30 feet. I would say
because you're basically saying like I'd go to a place where I'm already making 1 out of 300 putts and like call it good.
Yeah, because your percentage is so low. Like, how often are you really pouring in 30 footers?
Yeah,
but like inside 20 feet. Was that the first question or 10?
10.
10 plus. You said
10 plus.
Yeah, no chance. I can't believe the words are coming out of my mouth, but I would take one shank around. Which is just nightmare stuff.
Dude, it is nightmare fuel, man, because it could happen anywhere, and like that could add any number of shots. Because like not only, and here's why I just want to push back a little, and I know you've already said this, but the mental problem you would have knowing that there's one in there.
So situationally, you would be over a certain shot and go, if I shank this, it's in a windshield, or it's gonna hit the caddy, or it's gonna, I mean,
it's
that
where
would be tough.
It's where like 2 under par goes to now you're over and you can't come back. Like that's what happens.
If it was like 2 shanks, I think my answer would change more than the putting radius. If it's 1, I would just like get over it mentally and say, dude, you're just going to hit a shank. Just make a confident swing. And once it happens, like, cool. But if it was 2, I don't know if I would probably pick up bowling at that point.
2 is bad, dude, because it's like, it's not only does
Yeah.
it jack your score, but it also makes you feel terrible. All right.
Yeah.
So since you had a couple, I mean, dude, I have a list of a million of these
Yeah.
things, but I'm going to go with, all right. Your skin changes color to reflect your current emotion, or every morning you wake up with a new set of tattoos that tells the story of the day before.
Dear
Everything
Lord.
that happened.
I would take the tattoos.
Okay, let me push back on tattoos, because I originally immediately went there as well. The problem I ran into with tattoos is that for the most part, it would generally be a non-issue. Now, granted, tattoos could show up on your face and that would just not be that sweet.
No, it's not that sweet.
But you could cover most
Not
of
a big
the...
face tag guy.
Yeah, you could cover most of them. And if you throw some makeup on, you could maybe cover the rest. But you have a significant other, and she's going to read that story, bud, every day. Like, it. Like, every day, she's going to be like, let me see your tattoo. And you're like,
So
do we really need to...
my thing. Here's my thing. I think, not to push back on you, but my thought process there is, I think sometimes as human beings, we feel emotions and they're very temporary, and we can rationalize that emotion and overcome it with a certain perspective, a certain attitude, a certain change in our emotion based on the analysis of that previous emotion. And so it's not permanent. So it's like I might feel a certain kind of way in this particular minute when I'm trying to get my headphones working and they won't work. And then I turn bright orange. But that's like, a lot of times it's best if those emotions, if you control them a little bit. I think also with the tattoo thing, I feel like it would be interesting because I think you would start, it might be a good trigger to like live your best life every day. So like tomorrow's tattoos reflect something that you're sort of proud of versus like, I was an asshole yesterday and now I got a tattoo on my forehead, right? Like, which is not that sweet. Whereas like,
Yeah.
if I'm being an asshole or I'm thinking a certain thought or I'm just, and here's the other thing. Emotions are an interesting thing because I've always said like one of the only things you can control in life is your attitude. You can't necessarily always control emotions, but your perspective and your attitude can change those emotions, whatever the situation may be, right? Whether it's as severe as grieving the loss of a loved one, or it's sometimes you just wake up and you don't feel that great. And I have days where, I mean, everyone does. You have a day where you wake up and you just don't feel good. And I kind of have little self pep talks, and I'm like, look, you can only control what you can control. Your attitude is the only thing you can control. And so, move on. If I turn the color of my emotion every 5-10 minutes throughout the day, like that would be a tough one, because then you're in social settings, you're at work, you're talking to loved ones, and like they're not necessarily doing anything to piss you off, but you're just kind of in a bad mood. And like that's going to ruin that situation really quick, right? Whereas a lot of times you can override that emotion and dial it in for a particular situation. You can't take back turning purple because something happened. Like,
Well, yeah,
you can't
and-
hide it either. There's no amount of makeup that you could put on that would hide you turning purple.
Yeah, and it's tough for a variety of reasons, because like you make a good point, right? Like it would start like the tattoos would start making you live a cleaner life for sure, and the emotions would be really tough because it's like I feel like I hide my emotion pretty well, and part of that is because, and it's not that I'm afraid of my emotions. Like, I'm cool with all of the emotions that I feel, but I don't always want other people to see those emotions because, like, there are times when, like, I'm worried about something and, like, I don't need other people to be worried around me. Like, or there are times
you're worried for a silly reason, or it's going to be okay.
But the tattoo thing. So I'll look at this through two lenses. One is as of me, who's a single guy, and I do some unsavory things from time to time. That means that at any point in my life, I may have a tattoo, expose something that, like, doesn't really change me, and it shouldn't change anyone's opinion of me, but it does. And I also think that it will create an environment where in relationships, and this is rich for me to talk about relationships because I've had 0.0 of them in the last 20 years. I mean, I've dated, but, like, I've had, like, one serious relationship since college, really, and I'm 37. So I feel like I've seen so many relationships where it's like the sharing of the passwords, the sharing of the bank accounts, the sharing of this, that, the other. And everyone's just like, yeah, of course, that's what happens. It's cool. But I feel like it's another entirely to then create this environment where now all of a sudden, like, I feel like the other person might just be like, okay, Devon, you just went out to visit Jason. And I'm not saying this is Emily because I think Emily's cool shit. But I feel like there would be a want and a natural human instinct to always want to see the tattoos if that person was away from you. And be like, and maybe it could be with the most honest of intentions. Like, oh, I wonder how much he thought about me and drew pictures of me in his office when he was out in California. But that whole, like, show me your tattoos every day, that could potentially happen. And it sounds like that'd be a crazy person to ask for that, but, like, I would want it. And, like, I'm not even saying that, like, I would ask for it, but it's just human nature. So I don't know. That's a tough one for me. I think I tend to agree with you on the tattoos.
But then to that point, as someone who has been in relationships, I would say in any relationship, you have moments where your significant other drives you absolutely up the wall. And you bite your tongue because you love that person.
Oh, for sure.
And you let that pass and you handle it maturely and you rationalize with yourself that emotion you're feeling at that particular time is temporary and it will pass, and there's no reason to have that emotion be the cause of a blow-up argument. And in the case of my color changing, there's no hiding that, right? Like, and so then those emotions become very visible and it becomes an entire discussion when in reality they're just going to pass. And that purple anger could turn to green happiness in 5 minutes and we would still be talking about the purple anger.
Yeah, but that, like, conversely, everything is going well. You have a fight the day before and you felt a certain way about it. You have a next day that's totally fine because you totally, like, you know, you held it together, you did all the right things, and then all of a sudden you're like, you hear from the cheap seats, hey babe, what's that behind your ear? A place that you can't see, right? Like, because you'd have to set up such a complex system of mirrors at that point to just know what was going on, right? And she's like, yo, behind your ear, you didn't really mean what you said last night about being okay with that thing, right? And you're like, babe, what do we, like, it's like we're watching The Walking Dead, like everything is fine. And she's like, no, look. And you go in your galactic room of really fantastic mirrors and you're like, yeah, I mean, like,
I think the tattoos would force you to be honest and open and live a better life. I think the emotions could be totally misread on a daily basis.
I completely agree. I'm with you.
I would take the tattoos. I wish it didn't have to be possible face tattoos though, because that's just really rough.
Well, yeah. Well, that adds a whole other dimension.
If it could just be body pieces, like, you know, and then the reality is like you have a really bad day and you're just like, I'm just not leaving the house. I'm just gonna stay here, and then tomorrow it'll just be pictures of ice cream and couches and movies and popcorn. And I'll go proudly walk into public at that point.
Yeah, or like you go to work on a Monday and everyone's like, "Oh, how was your weekend?" You're like, "Oh, it was totally fine." Like, "Oh, I just
martini glasses and
just
couch
poker
and
chips and like a bank account going to zero."
That's a phenomenal question. I love that.
Yeah, or you're like talking to your buddy about like that fish you caught, and on your back it like has a roller next to it, and it was actually 3 pounds. Fuck that, man. All right, last would you rather for the day.
Okay.
And I think this is a fun one. So you have, and you're gonna like the first one because you're a hippie, even though you deny it on every single podcast. You have a magical van.
I'm not a hippie.
Correct. Yeah, you're not. Of course you're not. You have a magical van that can take you to any place and at any time that you want. Or you have a magical ring. And when you're wearing it, you can immediately absorb all the information from any book or publication that you touch.
Do you retain that information for the rest of your
the rest of your days?
Ooh, buddy.
Right?
Ooh.
Like, magical van sounds cool, but when you like any book, any public...
So the van takes you to any time and place.
Anytime, any place, whenever you want. It's got infinite fuel and the snacks you like.
Or I have a ring and I absorb every piece of information with any book or publication that I touch.
That you touch.
I would have to take the ring.
Right?
I would have to take the ring. I think man, that's tough though, because like the amount of information that you would get from going back in history and seeing it firsthand instead of relying on the publications or the books that were written about it, right? Like the history books are written by the people who won whatever it was that they were fighting. So like you don't always get every side to the story. There's 2 sides to every coin.
Yeah. Well, and so like consider this though. Consider this. And I agree with you, but also consider that magical van can take you to the Library of Alexandria before it was burned down. You could read books that we do not even have access to, homie. You could read stuff that we don't have access to.
Man, that's really tough because I think the perspective you would gain from going back in time. I mean, I said my superpower would be time travel.
Yeah. Like, dude, you could literally, like, tomorrow we could be like, hey, man, what are you doing this afternoon? Like, oh, I'm just getting back from work. Cool. Yeah, I just kind of want to know about this parting of the Red Sea thing. You want to check it out? Yeah, man. I zap over to your house and we zap there. Like,
no, this is the first time you've done this, but I will always give credit where credit is due. I'm going to change my answer.
Pew, 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 pew.
I'm gonna change my answer, and I'm getting on the magic bus. Or the magic van.
The magic bus. It would be cooler if it was a bus, to be honest. But
I'm taking the van because I think you could gain such a unique perspective on things rather than just retaining information from one person's perspective, whoever that author of said publication might be. Like if you got to go back and watch the parting of the Red Sea, there's a few pieces of very historically accurate literature that you can read about that, but it's only from a few perspectives. If you were there and you could watch it happen, that perspective is worth, it's almost like a picture's worth 1,000 words. And seeing it firsthand would give you way more perspective than simply reading someone's account of it. So I'm changing my answer. My final answer, Regis Philbin, is I'm hopping on the magic van and I'm going back in time.
Okay. Well, so this is actually kind of rich because now that we've had this discussion, because my mind was pretty firmly made up, and maybe this is because like I don't know if I've changed my mind or you've changed my mind, but I've changed my mind for sure. Like, I don't know if it's because of me that I've changed my mind or because of you, and like I'm just fanboying it up. But yeah, I honestly, now that I really think it through, getting a first-hand account,
Yeah.
and you could do it like right now. I could just go back to like some very specific moment in history. Like,
I would do it because people. I mean, think about it. I said it earlier. Like, a picture's worth 1,000 words. So, like, sure, I could digest 1,000 words of information out of a book of one person's account of a particular event in history, and I would retain that. But like, that's just sort of regurgitating and retaining one account of said situation.
well, yeah. And buddy, like you could throw your dad in that van and go watch Ben Hogan play.
100%.
Like,
Yeah,
actually,
if I can take people, like,
well, dude, yeah.
if I can't take people, it doesn't change my answer. If I can take people, it's 110%.
Yeah, you could. So you could take as many people as can actually sit in the van, I guess would be the way. I think if we're going to ask other people, like it's like you're not going to just jam 300 people into the van. Like it's literally the van is 5 seats. You can take you and plus 4 people. Cause like that dude is like now you, me, and 3 other people. And we're like, how do you think this really happened? And they're like, this is basically what I read. And I'm like, well, guess what?
Let's go.
Ching, a ching, ching. And now we're boom. We're like at the resurrection. Like, come on, dude. Like,
yeah, we're hopping on. We're hopping aboard the van. Come in my van.
Get on that magic school bus, bud. All right. Well, that's it for my would you rather's, dude. We have a shit ton more of them. Also, anyone listening would love to hear your feedback. Either new would you rather's, either ones that exist and we haven't talked about, or ones that you come up with on your own. Actually, ones you come up with on your own, we'll give you a shout out on the pod for the record.
And we'd love to discuss them.
Dude, yeah, I'd love these so much. So yeah, that was the end of that for me. What you got for number 2?
Number 2 is that's sort of the would you rather segment is done. So number 2 is, if you could be exceptionally good at one position in any sport, or at any sport if it's not a positional sport, what position and what sport and why?
If I could be exceptionally good at one position in any sport. So
you're not necessarily the GOAT, but you are like top tier at that particular sport and position.
Yeah. Like I'm elite. Like
Correct.
Whether or not I'm the GOAT is up for debate, but like I'm elite. Because honestly, I would probably rather elite than GOAT. Because I just like, I want to do it, be done, and have people be like, they bring me up every once in a while, and someone's like, yeah, Bill Russell, and you're like, yeah, it was great, but he's no. Oof. I mean, okay, so of the sports it's not even of the sports I've played, because like, I don't know. So you think about the sports, right? And you go baseball. Well, baseball is such a grind. You're away from your family so much. You got football, but football's got the whole CTE thing going on, minus like certain positions. My mind immediately goes to, it kind of dovetails nicely with another question, which is like, if you could be any type of professional athlete, what would you be? So my answer always comes down to one of 2 things. It's, do I want to be like galactically famous, and I'm single, so like I want to meet someone, and like, I want to meet a baddie. If that's my angle, I probably go football, but not American. Like I would be like a Messi, a Ronaldo, like give me all of Europe and the rest of the world, and I'm awesome at that thing. Like I'm a Neymar dude, and I am just in Brazil clapping cheat. Like, yeah. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, because at that point, like, Messi is known across the world, and most of the most famous footballers are. If I think about, like, from a pure practicality standpoint, like, I don't want to be in the limelight. I want to make a good amount of money. I probably, but this is a different question than you asked, so I'm going to try and answer the one you asked. If I could be elite at any sport, the most fun would be that, or like, Formula One would be pretty cool too, even though I'm not super into it. golf I like, but the truth is, like, I feel like the fun would be sucked out of the game if I was that elite at it, because I feel like I don't know, there's something about not being so good at it that keeps me coming back. And if I had to practice it all the time, like, I don't think I'd love it as much, to be honest with you. I think practically speaking, I would love to be an elite quarterback in the NFL, I think is my final answer. And the reason I go with that is quarterbacks are, I mean, they're responsible for the way that whole team goes. And you got the whole city on your back, and you're on the backs, literally, of the whole city. Like, they're wearing your jersey, you go anywhere, and like, you're Jalen Hurts in Philadelphia right now, and you ain't buying beer, and you can do no wrong. Dude, that would just be so fucking tremendous. Like, you see the way that they're treating Jason Kelsey now. I mean, Jason Kelsey, shout out to you and the whole New Heights shit you're doing, but like, and Travis too. But like, dude, I mean, because like now quarterback would just be, because like you're the thought leader on the field, and you're that good because of one of two reasons, right? Like, you're either you've got great arm talent, or you're super sharp and you've got okay arm talent, or like above average talent, or you're just athletic as fuck, dude. That would be awesome. Secondary answer to that, and then this kind of expands into other parts of life. Because, like, you know, Patrick Mahomes was a great baseball player, a great basketball player, all that. Dude, there's something really cool about being just like a super athletic dude. And I still go to football, and now I almost go like cornerback. Because at that point, dude, you're beating everyone at beer pong. You're better at skee ball. You're just really great at generally everything, I would think. And like, it's just you versus one other dude. Because quarterback, you know, it's a different situation. I would say, primary would be that. It wouldn't be baseball. You're away from your family way too much. Golf, you're just practicing too much. Basketball, you're away from your family a lot. And I've never been super into basketball, but if it was purely a get a wife and be famous play, it's European football, and it's not even close. If it's, I'm like, of all the things I know and actually care about, professional quarterback. And if I want to just be super sly with it, I'm cornerback, and all day long. Like, give me 6'2" athleticism. I could jump out the gym. I could lock down your best receiver. I could talk all my shit. And like, at the end of the day, I got one job to do, and I just clamp your ass down, like seatbelt on you, like, get fucked. Like, me versus you. Because that's the thing, dude. It's like, it's fucking you and it's me. And yeah, your quarterback said I'd be good, but guess what? You're not going to see the light of day today. I've just decided that today's the day. You're not getting open.
Good one.
Yeah.
Cornerback's a good one.
Where are you at?
I have a long-standing love of baseball.
Okay.
From when I was a little kid. And I think of all the sports, obviously I love golf. Of all the sports, baseball to me is the most beautiful because it is so simple. And my answer to the question is I would be an absolute dynamite closing pitcher. Because here's why. I flirted with being like a total ace.
Yep.
But like, you only pitch once every 5 or 6 games, which is kind of cool. But the competitor in you has to sit in the dugout for the other 5 games and watch your team win or lose, and you got no say in the matter, right? With a really good closer on a pretty good team, you kind of get to come in like every game. And the art of baseball is so beautiful because it is as simple as I have a ball in my hand. You are really, really good at hitting baseballs. I'm going to look you in the eye, and I'm going to dare you to try and hit this ball. And I'm going to throw some gnarly funk your way, and you're going to swing and miss even though you're one of the best players in baseball. And when you're watching like playoff baseball, and there's that moment where bases are loaded, there's 2 outs, the count's 3-2. It's the bottom of the ninth, and you make a guy swing and miss. I don't know. I don't know if there's a feeling in sports better than that. And it's so simple. It goes back to being a kid. I'm going to throw this ball to you. I bet you can't hit it. And to do it at a high level like that has got to be so badass. So I would be a stand-up closer in baseball, and I would just throw 9 pitches in the ninth inning. Strike, 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 strike. See you later. Bye.
Well, dude, and so the tricky thing with that is like their shelf life is generally pretty short, all things considered. But their peak is so high. And the difference that I see between them and the starting pitchers, right? Starting pitcher is a team's way of saying, I think on average, you're better than those guys on average.
Mm-hmm.
And over the long season, you're going to get it done. A closer is like, the shit's hitting the fan, and I don't trust a single fucking person in this stadium, least of which I trust all my other pitchers. I'm going to the only guy I can count on right now. Like, it's you, dude. Like, I don't trust anybody else but you.
The adrenaline that you have to feel as a closing pitcher when you get called has got to be, like, you watch some of those guys run out, stadium packed, high pressure situation in the ball game, and you step up and you just throw some absolute heat. Dude, like, that is just...
Yeah. Like
it's got to be amazing.
Everything is going right for the other team, and you step out there and
ruin days.
Injury, you know what I mean? Like, in your mind, you're like, the whole city of Chicago is fucked right now because I got that call. Like, I almost feel bad for these fucking dudes. Like, the mentality you must have when you're at the top of that game, dude. Like, imagine, like, because now we're talking GOAT shit, like Mariano Rivera.
Yeah.
Like, dude, when he came into the game...
He just threw some stuff that no one could hit.
And it's
he made
just
grown
like...
men look like T-ball players.
Dude, and it's like the feeling totally changes because as you inch closer and closer to the closer, like, you're like, I got to get my runs now because I know Jay-Bird's in the bullpen, and I know that his right arm is better than my whole body and my team's whole body. Like,
how great is that, right? It's just the simplest.
Yeah.
I'm gonna throw a ball, you can hit it, and the game's over.
Yeah, it's
Thanks
like
for coming.
It's like, okay, you have runners on second and third. That's cute. Yo, Devin, come deal with this. And you're like, I got you, fam.
I got you. Yeah.
Such a good answer,
and
dude.
Even though the baseball season is long, and even though you're away from family for a while, like, you kind of just, you do your training and you kind of just hang out. And some days, like, dude, you got a 3-run lead, like, you don't even really need a pitch, right? Like, and if they score 1, then you come in and it's like, all right, reliever, get out of here. Like, it's time for daddy to close the game.
Daddy.
But, like, you know, so you're really working, like, you're working the last little shift, you're getting it done, and you're moving on to wherever the next game is.
It's so beautiful, dude. So beautiful. Okay, so this brings me to my finality, unless we decide we want to talk more. Are you familiar with the term lexical ambiguity?
I'm not.
Lexical ambiguity refers to a word that has 2 or more meanings that can create a sentence that, while grammatically correct, is a fucking maze to untangle. Devin,
Okay.
did you know that you can create a grammatically correct sentence that repeats the same word 8 times in a row?
Buffalo.
Do you know how Buffalo works?
I believe it is Buffalo, obviously the place in New York.
Mm-hmm.
The animal. And then there is, like, I believe a verb, to be buffaloed, sort of like bullied.
Bullied, bamboozled.
bamboozled, right? So it could be like, but I don't know how you structure the sentence, but I have seen it before.
Okay. Well, here's what I will ask you to do. Expand the frame a little bit, if you will, on your computer, because I'm about to show you something.
Expanded. This is exceptional, by the way.
Yeah.
This is exceptional.
All right. So the sentence you talked about is right up top there.
Buffalo from New York. So New York, Buffalo.
City is 1. Bison, another name for buffalo, is 2.
Sure.
And then 3 is bamboozle or bully, if you want to go with that definition.
So it would be, let's say number 1 is New York. Number 2 is bison. Number 3 is bamboozle. So it's New York bison, bamboozle.
Yep. Bamboozle,
New York bison.
Yeah. So it's basically buffalo bison, that buffalo bison trick, also trick buffalo bison.
New York buffalo.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So there's another example, and I'm probably going to have to go out of frame for this one. You see the can.
I sure do.
All right.
The can is a dance.
Can is a dance, so it's can.
So dance.
So the dance, so can.
So the dance is able to outperform the dance.
I've had a couple glasses of wine, so let me think about this for a hot second. Okay, so a dance that can outperform the dance.
The can.
So yeah, can that the dance can outperform the dance.
That is outrageous.
And then the last one is the silliest.
Shipping ships.
Yeah. And I drew a little picture for you. I think it's like down here. I'm not sure where it is.
You sure did, and it is. Your art is amazing.
Thank you. But yeah, dude.
Shipping ships.
Which is the easiest one to understand, but it also highlights the lexical ambiguity.
Lexical ambiguity.
Yeah. So it's basically, again, one word that means multiple things that creates ambiguous situations and sentences. So
wow.
I learned that the other day, and there's actually a TED Talk that I got all 3 of those from, although I knew the buffalo one. Mm-hmm. But yeah, and because I was thinking about it the other day, and I thought it was only 5 buffalo, and when I realized it was 8, I had to go to Wikipedia, and I still couldn't understand it because they were like, this is a noun, this is a verb, this is a transitive adjective. Mm-hmm. And I was like, get fucked, dude. I need a video about this.
That's exceptional.
Yeah, so again...
I love this just became educational.
Yeah, so...
Lexical ambiguity.
So again, buffalo. So the bison from buffalo. That buffalo. So that other bison from buffalo. So bison from buffalo. That other bison from buffalo trick can also trick buffalo from buffalo. And the can one is like that. I had to actually read it because I was like, can.
Wow, that is wild.
How cool is that?
Do you know how many examples of that there are?
I don't. I mean, those were the only 3 that I found. Because the thing is, like, I mean, I wanted to look for more words. I didn't have the time. But I will continue looking for more examples like that. And I don't know if they just exist in English or if they exist in any other language. I know they exist in ours, right? Because we have words that are not intentionally, I'm sure, but are completely ambiguous for reasons that are unbeknownst to me.
So the last topic / question to lead us down this thought safari.
Love it.
Is once again pertaining to sports.
Okay.
And it is, in your opinion, What is the hardest position in sports? And then to tag on to that, what is the hardest thing for an average person to do
Oh my God.
as it pertains to sports, right? So the hardest position in sports for trained athletes,
Yeah.
and then does that answer change if you're talking about the average person doing something in sports?
I'll answer the second one first because I have a hard time imagining there's anything harder to do in sports than this. And I've given so much of my brain to this. I don't understand how people get into it. It has to just be because their parents did it. The hardest thing for an average person to do is
For those listening, I have no idea. Like, this is a question that I have sort of like an answer to in my brain. I have no idea where Jason's going.
the hardest thing. The hardest position in all of sports is that, like, for an average person is pole vaulter. Like, has to be, right? Like, what else? Like, could you imagine?
So I've always watched certain sports like that and wondered, like, how, okay, so like I just decide, like, all right, I'm gonna get into pole vaulting.
Pole vaulting.
What's your first step? Like, what if, like, because I guarantee the first time you do it, it doesn't go well.
No way
Like,
it goes well.
if I just grabbed the pole and I was like, okay, I'm gonna vault myself up in the air. Like,
No way.
where do you go if you don't go where you're supposed to go?
Like, it is.
Like a foam pit.
Dude, it's like not even, because it's like you'd have to run through the foam pit. I don't know how you even train for that. Like, how do you,
It can't
like,
feel that great.
dude, there is nothing. Yeah. Okay. So, like, for the average person, don't get me wrong. I mean, anything would be unfathomably hard for them, right? Because, like, if you're a professional major league pitcher, going back to that example, like, you just have no chance
At hitting a major league fastball.
at hitting a major league fastball. But, like,
So
if
that would have been my answer. Just for whatever it's worth.
okay, yeah. So, like, but here's the thing. I was absolutely terrible at hitting a baseball, but I played baseball. And I feel like the average person in the United States, anyway, has played baseball or softball at some point in their lives. So your chance of success in hitting a major league fastball is somewhere north of zero. Your chance of successfully pole vaulting is like absolute zero. Yeah. Like, you just have no chance. Now, if you want to change it to like any sport that, like, you know, we watch on television regularly, I mean, I would probably say that, like, if you're going specific position, I would probably say like shortstop or probably third base, actually, because now, like, third base, you're in the lineup, and also, like, your hot corner, you got to make the longest throw. You're getting, like, piss missiles at you, because no one's, like, you hit numbers to third, but, like, you're not getting a ton of routine ground balls. Like, they're coming at you because someone pulled it. Like, they're either bleeding to you or they are up on you faster.
Moving.
Like, buddy, like, playing third base, I can't even imagine. Now, I will also say, though, like, I mean, dude, but then you think about, like, rugby, or you think about, I mean, like, soccer would be rough, but also, like, offensive or defensive linemen in the NFL. Like, imagine, like, you're a cornerback trying to cover Alvin Kamara or Christian McCaffrey out the flat, or imagine you're lined up against Devontae Adams and he's got anyone at all at quarterback. Like, talk about like, you're cooked faster than a fucking $2 bag of Brussels sprouts from Trader Joe's in the microwave, but
one step.
You're done. You're cooked. Yeah. It's over. Like, he looks at you, and before the ball is snapped, he puts his hand up. Like, that's where he's at. Like, I mean, you have no chance at all.
I think the soccer one, like, I would argue the soccer one, because I think, like, while nobody can do it to the refined level that, and I'll use golf as another soccer example, right? Where, like, like, even a 30 handicap can, like, catch one ball that they hit perfectly, right? And that's like why they want to play golf. To that point, like, nobody is pole vaulting the first time. Nobody is hitting a major league fastball. Like, so then here's one that I thought of just in this conversation. Have you ever watched polo?
Not really.
It is one of the most absurd things I've ever watched.
I'm glad you said absurd, because I saw one clip of it and I thought it was absurd.
People ride horses.
Yeah.
And they have like super long golf clubs.
Mallets.
And they hit a ball that's on the ground while they're riding a horse at full speed.
I mean, it's like...
The average Joe is off that horse before the club is swung.
Dude, I mean, and then you're even talking about range of motion, but like, okay, so great example, but, you know, my mind, because we're on safari here, my mind also goes into this at a different layer of depth, right? Because, like, there is, if the question is strictly what is physically the hardest thing, that's different than what is just the hardest, right? Because, like, we're forgetting entirely the mental component of this, right? Because you're starting quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles, and I'm a Philly sports fan and will be till I die. Go Birds, and fuck everyone else, especially the Cowboys. And they're not the Cowboys, they're fans. Actually, fuck them both. Fuck them both.
Yeah, that's how the rest of the world feels about Philly fans.
Yeah, well, if you ain't, it's, dude, honestly, like, we're one of those, like, we all we got, we all we need kind of fucking places.
Of course you are.
And it's you're either with us or against us, and even if you're with us, you're kind of against us half the time. So, like, the truth of it is, like, if you think about an offensive lineman, right, like, that would be impossibly hard for me. Like, I would break all the bones in my body the second Aaron Donald decided he was going to try. Like, dude, I would just, you know what I mean? Like, I would literally, I would
fall down before I took the brunt of that force.
Would have no vertebrae left. And so, like, I think about that. But then I think about the mental aspect of, like, you know, imagine being, like, some really tragic stories in the NFL. Like, imagine, like, forget Baker Mayfield because he's had his resurgence. Imagine being Johnny Manziel, Johnny Football. Like, he's a guy that for a long time, I, like, you know, watching him in college, I was like, he's the fucking man. Watch him in the NFL, I'm like, good, that's what happens. And I hated myself for that take, but I couldn't help but feel that way. And then he's now on this, like, bit of a redemption arc. And he was on a podcast with Shannon Sharp, actually, not terribly long ago. And he was talking about, and I believe him. Like, I mean, I have no choice but to believe him. But if I believe him, he's talking about, like, he's like, you know, I don't even feel so bad about myself. But imagine, like, what he was talking about is, like, you know, his offensive lineman or his defensive lineman. But his offensive lineman, he was like, this guy's like a Pro Bowler, played in a place that had no chance, and then you get me as quarterback. And that's the thing, dude, is, like, you know, whether it's the Caitlin Clarks of the world or that huge fucking Edie dude that is on Purdue or, like, any of those guys, like, they're not expected to come into the NBA and just run the NBA. Like, Bryce Harper was expected to be great, but he wasn't expected to just run shit. When you're a quarterback, dude, you come in and the expectation is you are leading us to greatness. And how few and far between the people are that actually do that. And like to think of like the weight of that entire city, and not even just the city, like the entire franchise is on your shoulders, like a flailing franchise, and they see you as the hope because you were Johnny fucking football.
Yep.
Dude, I don't know that you could
Or
pay me
Vince
enough.
Young or Bryce Young or I mean the list goes on and on
Any
and
of
on.
those guys, Justin Fields, man, like the pressure that we put on athletes, and it's one of those like, this may be an incredibly unpopular opinion. Let us know in the comments. But I actually feel bad for athletes, man, because like when you look at the, not to get political about any of it, but like the stuff that happened with like Angel Reese at LSU and the Caitlin Clark at Iowa and like that whole debacle, it's like we expect those kids, they're kids, man. Like we expect 20, 21-year-old, sometimes like 18, 19-year-old kids to deal with things the same way that we do. And I think honestly, they handle it a lot better than I ever could at their age. And like, you mean to tell me that you're going to put me in a game like that and I'm going to be that level of good of like an Angel Reese or somebody, and I'm not going to be like just acting like, you know, an absolute asshole? I'm saying me, not her. Forget like my opinion on her. But I'm saying like me, if you think I'm not going to act like an asshole at like 18, dude, I acted like an asshole and I wasn't even that good at anything. And like you put so much pressure on these kids. Now they have the NIL money, which is a whole other thing. Then you expect them to go up and run a franchise, dude. And then like at the NFL level where it is the literally the most important thing to most people. And when you live in Cleveland or anywhere in Ohio outside of, you know, the Cincinnati, because they got the Bengals, but like when you're anywhere near that city, that's all they care about, dude. That's all they look forward to. They don't have enough money to put gas in their tanks, and they save up all year for their season tickets. And you're the guy to lead them on. I don't know why I'm on this Johnny Manziel rant, man, but like I feel
I think
so
it's a great
bad
point
for those dudes.
I mean, I think feeling bad is one thing. I think it's a really good point to the question of one of the hardest positions in sports, non-applying to the average person.
Yeah.
Let me rephrase that. We'll edit that out. I think what you're saying is that quarterback is one of the hardest positions in sports, regardless of whether we're talking about the average person, right?
For
like
sure,
we're just talking about trained athletes, like the crown that they wear sort of is like is unbelievable because the expectation is through the roof. The credit goes their way almost all the time. And if the results don't go the way the expectation was, like the quarterback in football gets all the blame, right? So like, I mean, even use Chicago as an example, and I'm not even a Bears fan, but I got a lot of friends who are, and like the Justin Fields thing, like he was going to be, I mean, he was the savior of the Chicago Bears.
Yeah.
And he had these glimmers of like hope and glory and all of the things that everyone thought would be. And like all of a sudden he's traded for whatever round pick, and like it is just an afterthought because it just didn't. And like there's no way that you can watch the Chicago Bears season from last year and say the season was entirely to blame Justin Fields for.
Right.
It's insane.
I mean, Cole
But,
Kmet is just not what he should be. Like they've got so many problems.
Like that's such a hard position because it's not all on your shoulders, but it is all on your shoulders.
100%.
Yeah, it's a really good point. I never thought about quarterback.
Yeah. Well, it's just, and that's like, yeah, I would just say when you add the mental to the physical, it changes a little bit. Cause I feel like there are some that are just physically like, you couldn't even, I mean, I couldn't, like me playing in the NBA, dude, like I can't even dribble, man. Like I would just get shit on.
I say this about a lot of sports. Like I used to love these conversations with some of my buddies in college. Like when we talk about what's the hardest sport or what's the hardest position. Every time I watch NBA basketball and in come the comments like the NBA sucks, this and that and the other.
Yeah,
I get
yeah,
it. But if you actually watch an NBA basketball game and you watch how these guys move and you watch how they move for 30 plus minutes nonstop in a game, day after day after day, all you have to do, if you're doubting the athleticism of the NBA players, go to your local gym and play one pickup game of full court basketball. And you will not be able to walk for the next 2 days. I have buddies that play pickup basketball. They were basketball players in high school and college, and now they're our age. They're in their mid-30s. They play pickup basketball, and they plan their rounds of golf around, or their lessons around when they play their pickup games. Because like I had a buddy of mine who plays pickup basketball, and he was coming in for a driver fitting. He skipped his pickup basketball game that Wednesday because he was like, if I played basketball last night or even 2 days ago, I wouldn't physically be able to swing the driver like I know I can for this club fitting. And that's the guy who plays basketball. So then you look at like a guy like LeBron, all opinions aside, at 37, 38, 39 years old, playing 35 plus minutes in back to back to back games. That is absurd to do it at that level with that level of athleticism against players who are half his age in some instances. Like, dude, NBA players are freak shows. There's I don't understand how there's that many people, because here's my thing about NBA players. Not to go on a rant, but fuck it.
Send it.
Here's my thing about NBA players. How many people in your 37 years have you met that are taller than 6'6"?
In all the years I've been alive, like
All the
honestly,
years you've been
and
alive.
have seen personally,
Yeah, like you've interacted with them.
honestly, dude, maybe two.
Maybe two, right?
Maybe two.
Were those people athletic?
Not in the least.
Right. So most of us average people, you're two in 37 years you've met. I don't know. I think I've met one person taller than 6'6", and same thing. Like the most unathletic human I think I've ever met.
Yeah.
Then I look at the NBA rosters and I'm like, every team has like 3, 4, 5 guys that are over 6'8", and they all move like incredibly coordinated athletes. Where do these people come from? You got these guys. You have some of these guys now. There's this new breed of big men in the NBA, and I do love basketball, and I love that the big man is coming back into basketball.
Mm-hmm.
But like you look at some of these guys. You mentioned Purdue's Edie. You mentioned like you look at guys like Giannis, right? You look at guys like Jokic and
Wembanyama, dude.
Wemby, I mean, the perfect, like,
What? Like,
how,
what?
where do these guys come from that they're 7 foot plus and they're incredibly coordinated athletes? It's the most insane thing. Like, in 37 years, you've met two people that were taller than 6'6", and they were super unathletic.
Well,
And now
dude.
there's guys that are 7 foot plus and they move like fairies. I love you, dog. This was epic. It's 1:12 and I gotta go to bed.
You have yourself a good one, bud.